Frank Miller pressed his hand against the cold glass of Luna Base's main viewing window, his eyes fixed on the blue and white marble that was Earth. The planet looked peaceful from here, but Frank knew better. For 5 years, ships had been leaving. People had been saying goodbye to the only home humans had ever known. Today, the last ship would leave. "Hard to believe we're really doing this," said Jack Powell, stepping up beside him. Jack's face showed the same mix of sadness and anger that Frank felt inside. Frank nodded. 1,000 generations of human history, all of it left behind because some aliens think we're too unpredictable. The Galactic Council had made their decision in secret. They had voted to trap humans in their own solar system forever. They called it a quarantine. Frank called it a prison sentence. The aliens feared how quickly humans learned and changed. They worried about human creativity and determination. So they decided to lock humanity away. But the Council had made one big mistake. They didn't know that humans had been listening to their secret meetings. They didn't know that humans had been preparing. "Admiral Miller," called Olivia Bennett from the command station. "The last transport is ready. We need to board in 30 minutes. Frank turned from the window. The command center buzzed with activity as the final crew members prepared to leave Luna Base forever. Screens showed the massive ship waiting in orbit, the NSS Voyager. It would carry the last 10,000 humans away from the solar system. "Status report?" Frank asked, walking to the central table where a 3D map showed hundreds of green dots moving away from the solar system. "All civilian ships have successfully jumped to light speed," reported Alan Wright, his fingers moving across the control panel. "The last medical transport left Mars an hour ago. We're the only ones left in the system." Frank studied the map. Nearly 8 billion people had left Earth over the past 5 years. Some had gone to the outer colonies. Others had disappeared into unknown space. The Council thought they were containing a problem. Instead, they had scattered humans across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. "What about Operation Deadman's Switch?" Frank asked quietly. Olivia walked over with a secure tablet. "Everything is in place, sir. The triggers are set. If the Council doesn't remove the quarantine within 7 years, the switch activates automatically." Frank took the tablet and reviewed the final report. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. For decades, humans had been improving alien technology throughout the galaxy, fixing problems, adding features, making things work better. Few aliens understood how the improvements worked. They just enjoyed the benefits. What the aliens didn't know was that all those improvements needed regular maintenance by human hands. Without that maintenance, systems would start to fail, not all at once. Slowly at first, then faster, until everything fell apart. "Do they really deserve this?" asked Sam Rivera, the youngest officer on the base. "Some of those aliens never voted against us." Frank handed the tablet back to Olivia. "We're not activating it today. We're giving them 7 years to change their minds. That's more mercy than they showed us." A soft alarm sounded throughout the base. "Time to leave." "Final checks," Frank ordered. "Make sure nothing useful is left behind." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this day. Some looked back at screens showing Earth one last time. Others kept their eyes forward, refusing to look back at what they were losing. In the loading bay, Frank watched as crew members boarded the shuttles that would take them to the Voyager. Some carried small bags with personal items, photos of Earth, seeds from home plants, small reminders of the world they were leaving behind. "Sir," said Olivia, approaching with a small box. "The last item from the vault." Frank opened it. Inside was a small glass container holding soil from every continent on Earth, a piece of home to take to the stars. "Send the final message," Frank said. Alan nodded and typed the commands into his portable unit. The message was simple but powerful. "To the Galactic Council. Humanity has left the Sol system. We go into the void beyond your control. What we built, we can unbuild. You have 7 standard years to reverse your quarantine order. After that, the fail-safes will activate. This is not a threat. It is the consequence of your choice." As the last shuttle left Luna Base, Frank looked out the window. Earth grew smaller behind them. The blue marble that had given birth to humanity was now just another point of light in the darkness. On the bridge of the Voyager, Frank gave the final order. Set course for the Andromeda Reach. The massive engines of the Voyager came to life. The ship turned away from the sun and accelerated toward deep space. As they passed Neptune, Frank thought about the Council worlds. They felt safe in their power. They thought one small species could never hurt their mighty civilization. They were wrong. In the vastness of space, the last human shear. 6 months after the humans left, strange things began to happen across the galaxy. On Centauri Hub Station, a massive space station where thousands of aliens lived and worked, the lights flickered for the 3rd time that day. "Not again," shouted Chief Administrator Zin Corval, slamming his 3-fingered hand on the control panel. His skin turned dark purple with anger. "Why do these systems keep failing?" The tall, thin alien turned to his engineering team. The 5 engineers looked nervous. None of them wanted to admit they couldn't fix the problem. "We don't know, sir," said the lead engineer finally. "The maintenance systems have always fixed themselves before. Now they're forgetting how to work." Zin Corval growled in frustration. "Get someone who can fix this, I don't care who." 10 minutes later, Carol Davis walked into the control room. She was one of the few humans who had stayed behind after the Exodus. Officially, she was a diplomatic liaison. Unofficially, she was watching the aliens and reporting back to the human fleet. "You wanted to see me, Administrator?" Carol asked politely. Zin Corval looked down at the small human female. He didn't like humans. He had voted for the quarantine, but right now he needed help. "Our systems are failing," he said. "The lights, the temperature controls, the water recyclers. Nothing works right anymore." Carol nodded, trying to hide her smile. She knew exactly what was happening. Her husband George had designed many of these systems before he left with the fleet. He had built them with special code that would start to fail if he didn't personally check them every 6 months. Phase 1 of Operation Deadman's Switch had begun. "I might be able to help," Carol offered. "May I look at the main computer?" The administrator hesitated. Letting a human access their central systems went against security protocols, but the station had already lost 3 sections to environmental failures. Fine, but under supervision. Carol sat at the control terminal and began typing. Her fingers moved quickly over the alien keyboard. On the screen, lines of code appeared. "Interesting," she said, pointing to a section. "These self-regulation protocols are degrading. They were designed by human programmers, weren't they?" "What are you suggesting?" Zin Corval's voice was sharp. Carol kept her face neutral. "Nothing at all. Just noting that human programmers designed systems differently than alien ones. We always built in safety features that required regular human maintenance. It was our way of making sure things wouldn't run out of control." What she didn't say was that it was also the perfect way to make sure aliens couldn't steal human technology without keeping humans around. "Can you fix it?" Zin Corval asked. "I can make a temporary patch," Carol answered. "But without the original programmers, I can't promise how long it will last." As Carol worked on the computer, she thought about the small device hidden in her quarters. It looked like a simple picture frame, but it was actually a quantum communicator. It could send messages instantly to the human fleet, no matter how far away they traveled. Tonight, she would send her report. Phase 1 is working perfectly, all. Across the galaxy, similar problems were appearing. On the planet Nexus, the automatic farm machines were planting crops in the wrong patterns. On the moon-sized medical station of Helios, diagnostic equipment gave slightly wrong readings. On the trade routes between star systems, navigation computers occasionally gave ships the wrong coordinates. None of these problems were big enough to cause disasters, but they were annoying. They made life harder. They made aliens frustrated, and they were just the beginning. 2 weeks later, Carol sat in the small apartment she had been given on Centauri Hub. The lights were dim to save power. The station was now running on emergency systems only. She activated her quantum communicator. The hidden screen came to life, showing the face of Jack Powell, now serving on the human ship Liberty. "Report," Jack said simply. "Phase 1 is exceeding expectations," Carol said quietly. "The Centauri hub is operating at 60% capacity. The aliens can't figure out why their systems are failing. They've tried replacing parts, rewriting code, even building new subsystems. Nothing works." Jack nodded. "We're seeing the same reports from all our people who stayed behind. The Council worlds are starting to notice the pattern. Some of them are already blaming humans." "Are they changing their minds about the quarantine?" Carol asked. "Not yet," Jack replied. "They're too proud. But give it time. This is just the beginning." Carol turned as she heard noises in the corridor outside her room. "I have to go. Someone's coming." She deactivated the communicator, just as a loud knock came at her door. When she opened it, Zin Corval stood there with 2 security guards. "Carol Davis," he said formally. "The Council has requested all remaining humans to attend an emergency meeting. They have questions about the recent system failures." Carol smiled politely. "Of course, I'd be happy to help in any way I can." As she followed the administrator down the corridor, Carol thought about what was coming next. Phase 1 was just small failures, annoying problems. Phase 2, which would begin in 1 year, would be much worse. Critical systems would start to fail. Power grids would become unstable. Food production would drop. By year 3, communication between star systems would become difficult. By year 5, some planets might lose their space travel ability completely. And if the Council still refused to end the quarantine after 7 years, Phase 6 would activate. The galaxy would effectively return to the pre-space age, all because they feared humans too much to let them live freely. "The Council members are waiting," Zin Corval said as they approached a large meeting room. Carol straightened her jacket and prepared her innocent face. It was time to watch the mighty Galactic Council realize they had made a terrible mistake. 2 years had passed since the humans left. The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council was no longer peaceful. Today it was filled with angry voices. "Silence," shouted High Counselor Tilak, banging his ceremonial staff on the floor. The old alien's skin was pale blue and his 4 eyes showed his worry. "We face a crisis that affects every world in the galaxy." On the huge screen behind him, a map of the galaxy showed thousands of red dots. Each red dot was a place where technology was breaking down. "Our analysts have confirmed what many have suspected," Telek continued. "These failures are connected to the human exodus." The room erupted in noise again. Some aliens shouted accusations. Others demanded solutions. A few called for war against the humans. In the back of the room, Eileen Walsh watched quietly. She was one of only 5 humans still allowed to attend council meetings. As the shouting continued, she thought about how much had changed in 2 years. When the humans first left, the council had laughed. What harm could one small species do? Now they weren't laughing anymore. "Transport systems are operating at only 60% capacity," reported a tall, insect-like alien from the Technology Guild. "Communication between systems fails regularly. Food production is down on 27 worlds, and our best experts cannot fix these problems." Counselor Zith stood up. The furry alien was known for his hatred of humans. "This must be sabotage. The humans damaged our systems before they left. We should hunt them down and force them to repair what they broke." Eileen smiled to herself. The alien still didn't understand. Humans hadn't broken anything. They had simply built everything to need human maintenance. It wasn't sabotage, it was job security. "The human representative has requested to speak," announced Talak. All eyes turned to Eileen as she walked to the center of the room. Unlike the other representatives with their fancy robes and jewelry, Eileen wore a simple blue uniform with just one silver pin, an Earth symbol. She stood straight and confident as she faced the council. "Distinguished members of the council," she began, "what you are experiencing is not sabotage. It is simply the way human technology works." "Explain," demanded Telak. "Humans never fully trusted automation," Eileen said. "We always built our systems to require regular human input. It's called planned obsolescence, a concept your cultures abandoned long ago. Eileen moved toward the big map, pointing to several red dots. These navigation systems, they were designed to need recalibration every 2 years. These food production facilities, they require reset codes known only to their human engineers. These communication relays, they were built to adapt to changing conditions, but only with human guidance. You expect us to believe this was not done on purpose? Zith shouted. Eileen shrugged. Believe what you wish. The facts remain. Humans drove the last century of galactic progress. Our engineers, programmers, and problem solvers are all gone now, and the systems they built are noticing. The room grew quiet as the aliens realized the truth. For generations, they had looked down on humans as primitive newcomers to galactic society. But they had eagerly used human innovations, human improvements, human creativity. They had never bothered to understand how those improvements worked. Now they were paying the price. What do the humans want? Asked Telak finally. The same thing we always wanted, Eileen replied. Freedom to travel, freedom to settle, freedom to continue contributing to this galactic community as equals. Reverse the quarantine order. And if we refuse? Challenged Zith. Eileen's face showed no emotion. Then you better hope your civilization remembers how to function without human innovation. You have 5 more years before the final phase activates. As she returned to her seat, angry shouts filled the room again. Eileen wasn't worried. The aliens were proud. Too proud to admit their growing dependence on human ingenuity. Too proud to acknowledge that quarantining humanity had been a terrible mistake. But pride wouldn't keep their worlds fed when the farming systems failed completely. Pride wouldn't maintain gravity when the generators broke down. Pride wouldn't protect them from what was coming next. Later that day, Eileen met with the other human representatives in a small, secure room. The 5 humans sat around a table, speaking quietly. How bad will it get? Asked Sam Wells, the youngest of the group. Eileen brought up a small hologram showing the next phases of Operation Dead Man's Switch. Phase 3 begins next year. Major. Transportation systems will start to fail. Ships will be stranded between systems. Some planets might be cut off completely. Phase 4 in Year 5 targets medical and food systems, added Greg Nelson, a former engineer. Not enough to cause mass death, but enough to create serious hardship. And if they still refuse to lift the quarantine after 7 years? Sam asked. Eileen's face grew serious. Then Phase 6 activates. Everything humans ever built or improved will shut down permanently. The galaxy effectively returns to pre-space travel technology. The room was silent as they considered this future. None of them had wanted this outcome. Humans had been eager partners in galactic society. They had shared their ideas freely, helped solve problems, built better systems for everyone. Until the Council decided humans were too dangerous to be free. We just received a message from Fleet Command, said Maria Rodriguez, looking at her, hidden communicator. They want to know if there's any sign the Council will change its mind. Eileen shook her head. Not yet. They're still in the anger phase. They think they can solve this without humans. They need to feel more pain before they'll admit they were wrong. Greg looked troubled. Is it worth it? All this suffering just to prove a point? It's not about proving a point, Eileen said firmly. It's about our right to exist as equals in this galaxy. They tried to cage us. They need to understand that was never an option. As they left the meeting, Eileen watched alien repair crews working frantically on a failing gravity generator. The mighty Galactic Council, with its 1,000-year history and advanced technology, was starting to crumble, and the clock was still ticking. 5 years and 11 months had passed since humanity left the solar system. On the bridge of the colony ship Liberty, Joseph Martinez looked out at the stars. The ship floated in the dark space between galaxies, far from any alien sensors. Message. From Command, Captain, said First Officer Linda Kelly, walking up to him with a data pad. The Council still hasn't answered our final warning. Joseph sighed. Only 1 month remained before the final phase of Operation Dead Man's Switch would activate. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. What about our people who stayed behind, he asked. Most have been evacuated safely, Linda reported. Only 3 chose to remain in council space. They understand the risks. Joseph nodded, feeling the heavy weight of what would happen in 30 days. The final phase would begin, and the carefully planned collapse would become complete. Billions of aliens would suffer. Some might even die if their worlds couldn't adapt quickly enough. Sir, called the communications officer. We're receiving a transmission from Doug Wilson, Priority 1. Joseph straightened. Doug was one of their best spies, working undercover as an alien merchant. Put him through. The screen lit up, showing Doug's face. He had special makeup to make him look like a Procyon alien, with purple skin and ridged forehead. But now the makeup was smeared and Doug looked worried. Captain, something bad is happening, he reported quickly. The council military is moving. They're attacking human settlements and arresting any humans who stayed behind. Joseph's hands tightened into fists. Are there casualties? Unknown, but reports aren't good. They're calling it a security action. They're looking for something. They think they can find and turn off the switch. Joseph realized. They still don't understand. There was no single switch to find. The failsafes were hidden in every piece of technology humans had touched over the last 100 years. Millions of invisible time bombs, all set to go off together. New transmission coming in? Linda announced. It's from Earth? Joseph turned, quickly. Earth? There's nothing left on Earth. The main screen changed, showing their old home planet. But instead of the empty gray world they had left behind, the image showed huge alien buildings covering much of the surface. Mining operations, military bases, alien cities. They waited until we left, Joseph whispered, anger building inside him. The quarantine wasn't about containing us, it was about taking our home. The council hadn't just wanted to restrict humans, they had wanted Earth itself. All that talk about unpredictable evolutionary tendencies was just an excuse to claim the resource-rich planet once its people were gone. Magnify Sector 4, Joseph ordered, his voice hard. The screen zoomed in, showing a massive mining operation in what had once been the Amazon rainforest. Another image showed aliens living in cities built on the ruins of human homes. They lied. To us, Linda said softly. All this time, Joseph's face grew cold with anger. Send the activation signal, full deployment. No more warnings. Linda hesitated for just a moment before typing the command. Signal sent. May God help them all. Across the galaxy, the final protocols woke up. But now, fueled by the discovery of this final betrayal, the programming executed its most aggressive settings. Operation Deadman's Switch had just become Operation Scorched Earth. On the Centauri hub, Eileen Walsh was being led to a holding cell. Armed guards walked on both sides of her. This is a mistake, she told the alien security chief. You need humans more than ever now. The chief ignored her. For the past week, the council had been rounding up all remaining humans. They thought if they captured enough human engineers, they could force them to stop what was coming. Suddenly, the lights went out. The gravity failed a second later. Eileen pushed off the wall, floating in the darkness as the confused guards tried to grab her. Emergency lights came on, casting red shadows in the corridor. A mechanical voice spoke over the station speakers. Critical system failure. All power diverted to life support. Evacuation recommended. Eileen smiled in the dim light. Phase 6 had activated early. The final betrayal of Earth had triggered the emergency protocols. Across the station, doors locked automatically. Air circulation stopped in non-essential areas. Communication systems shut down completely. And it wasn't just happening on the Centauri hub. All across council space, technology was failing faster than anyone had predicted. On the planet Nexus, the atmospheric regulators that kept the air breathable simply turned off. On the trade routes between stars, ships found themselves stranded as engines stopped working. On the council capital world, the protective shields that kept deadly radiation away from the surface began to weaken. Eileen pushed past the confused guards and made her way to an emergency escape pod. As a human, she knew how to operate it manually, without computer assistance. Most aliens had forgotten such basic skills generations ago. As her small pod shot away from the failing station, Eileen sent one final message to all human agents. Operation complete. Return to Rendezvous Point Alpha. Earth will be avenged. On the Council capital world, panic filled the great meeting hall. Emergency lights cast strange shadows as council members shouted over each other. How could this happen? Demanded Councilor Seath. You said we had a month before the final phase. High Councilor Telak looked older than ever in the dim light. Something must have triggered it early. All reports indicate simultaneous failures across the galaxy. A junior technician rushed into the room. Counselors, we've discovered something. It's about Earth. What about it? Asked Telak. Our colony there. Someone sent images to the human fleet. They know we settled Earth after they left. The room went silent. Every alien there understood the terrible mistake they had made. Send a message to all human representatives, Telak ordered finally. Tell them we surrender. Tell them we'll reverse the quarantine. Tell them we'll leave Earth. Tell them we'll give them anything they want. Just make it stop. But it was too late. No messages could be sent. The great communication network that had connected the 1,000 worlds of the Council for centuries had gone silent. The mighty civilization that had ruled the galaxy was crumbling. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the human fleet was turning around, preparing to return to a galaxy that would soon be desperate for their help. The day humans left, the universe began to fall, and now it had reached the breaking point. 7 years after the humans left, the galaxy was broken. Paul Johnson walked through the streets of Axion Prime, once the shining capital of the Galactic Council. Now the tall buildings stood dark and quiet. Only a few lights showed where people still lived. The great machines that had kept the city running were silent. Hard to believe this was once the most advanced city in the galaxy, said Beth Morgan, walking beside him. Paul nodded. 7 years of technological collapse, the most powerful civilization in history, brought down not by war but by the absence of a single species. They passed a group of aliens trying to fix a food machine. The aliens looked frustrated as they struggled with technology they had once taken for granted. Was it worth it? Beth asked quietly. All this suffering? Paul didn't answer right away. The question haunted every human who had witnessed the collapse. Operation Deadman's Switch had been designed as a bargaining tool, not as punishment. But when the Council revealed they had taken Earth, the human leaders had unleashed the system's full power. We're about to find out, Paul finally said as they reached their destination. The emergency council chamber was nothing like its former glory. Where once thousands of representatives had met under a great crystal dome, now fewer than 100 delegates huddled in a small room lit by simple lamps. Acting High Counselor Vex stood as Paul and Beth entered. The human representatives have arrived, she announced. Gone was the pride and contempt that aliens once showed to humans. Now, there was only desperate hope. Paul stepped forward. The human fleet has received your unconditional surrender. I am here to tell you that help is coming. A wave of relief passed through the room. What kind of help? Asked Vex carefully. Everything, Beth answered. Technical teams, repair crews, medical help, food experts, and the codes to restore all affected systems. The aliens showed clear relief, though some still looked suspicious. And, what do humans want in return? Someone called out. Paul took out a paper document, something rare in the digital age. Our terms are simple. Earth remains under human control. All restrictions on human movement are permanently removed. Humans will have equal representation in the new government that replaces the Council. He paused, letting the terms sink in. And most importantly, the official records will state, the day humans left, the universe began to fall. 3 days later, Paul stood in the same chamber as the first human ships entered orbit around Axion Prime. Not warships as many had feared, but massive vessels carrying supplies, equipment, and thousands of technical experts. As he watched the ships land on the view screen, Beth joined him. The greatest comeback in history, she remarked, from exiles to saviors in 7 years. Paul nodded. Humans always did have a flair for the dramatic. On the screen, the first shuttle landed. The door opened, and Karen Wilson, Admiral of the Osta human fleet, stepped out to meet the waiting council representatives. Behind her came hundreds of human engineers, doctors, and scientists ready to begin the work of rebuilding. The day humans left, the universe began to fall. The day humans returned, it began to rise again, but this time, on humanity's terms. The end.